Let's come to sit. Come to sit perhaps on the edge of a blanket or two blankets. Ah. It's funny, I'm still hearing some noises, but I muted you all, and that noise is not coming from me. So I don't know. It's this fascinating world. Okay, go ahead and close your eyes. Inhale and really breathe in deeply. Savor the breath, like really, really feel it, really taste it. At the top of the inhale, you might want to pause for a moment, feel that fullness. And then as you exhale, let it go. Give yourself over to a few moments of really feeling your way into all of the ways that you are. Yoga philosophy says that we exist on at least 5 levels. They call them koshas: a physical level, an energy level, a mental, emotional level, an intuitive wisdom level, and a spiritual level. And on all of these levels, you could be feeling a whole bunch of different ways. I really appreciate the realization that it is impossible to describe reality, because all you could ever describe is one small part of it. And maybe through our contemplative practices, through yoga practice, meditation, chanting, journaling, maybe we're expanding our view to be able to appreciate and take in and more of this reality. Maybe that's a lovely idea, that we would be able to take it in and experience it without actually being able to describe it. Because to describe it might be to make it smaller, to take only one piece, whereas the fullness, the totality is indescribable. So let's inhale together. Exhale, gather your hands into prayer and lift your heart and bow your head. And just as we could recognize that each one of us individually is a whole bunch of ways, maybe even relative to different situations, we can recognize that everyone in this class is a whole bunch of ways. And everyone in the city and the state, and you know where that's going, everyone on the whole planet is a whole bunch of ways. Our normal tendency is to operate from a place of, how am I going to be okay? How am I going to get my needs met? And maybe we could use the yoga practice as a chance to open out a little bit. And maybe instead of wishing just that your needs get met, or that you get what you want or need in this class, you might offer an aspiration that everyone who's practicing could get the healing that they need. Opening ourselves up to really touch the vastness of our experience. And so if you have a friend in the class and you're delighted to see their face, or someone you've never met before but you saw their face or their name, if there's anyone in particular you want to dedicate your practice to, or have an aspiration that they get what they want or that they need. At this time in our lives, of course, one student, Kathy, was saying that all week she was dealing with loss, her personal loss, her friend's loss of people, her friend's loss of things they loved. And Love and loss is perhaps what this whole experience it could be boiled down to. And love is deeper than even the loss. It's only because of love that the loss matters. Yeah. So that everyone could get the healing that they need. Let's join our voices if you'd like to in the sound of Om. We'll chant just one time. Let's inhale together. Release your hands down. Open your eyes and we'll come toward a heart bench. So for heart bench, you can use 2 blocks. If you have only one blanket, you can fold your blanket into like a noodle and place the blanket under your spine and under your head. If anyone needs more counsel on how to set up or ideas on how to deal with whatever's happening for you in this moment, please let me know. Katerina, I see your name on the screen. Lovely. Thank you for joining. Mwah. Yeah. Victoria, do you feel like you understand how to set yourself up? Yeah? Okay, good. Cool. Go ahead and recline. So if ever I offer something and it doesn't feel like the right thing for you today, if you have another idea on something that would feel better, help yourself. If you need or would like more ideas on possibilities, please ask. I'm a little silenced because I did get a message from someone about a big loss, a really big loss. And I'm just sitting with that. And it's such a valuable reminder all the time, going through your day, dealing with different people, maybe on Zoom, maybe at the grocery store or the drugstore, that we never really know what people are attending to inside. And just remembering that is maybe motivation to be kind. I'm sorry Suzanne isn't taking class this morning. She had given me this book, Pema Chodron's Welcoming the Unwelcome. So I've been reading it. And man, this woman just knows how to put it. She just puts it in the right way. And so she's talking about generating bodhicitta. And bodhicitta means awakened heart. Or you could say awakened mind. Mind and heart have the same word in this context. That's an interesting idea, that your mind and your heart could be the same thing. The yogis do put thoughts and emotions on the same kosha, the same level. But bodhicitta is awakening your heart, which does become motivation. motivation to be kind. And there's something about the way she's putting it in this book that I've never contemplated before, which isn't like, there's probably a whole bunch of things that I've never contemplated before, but the idea that all of our efforts on the spiritual path could be in service of cleaning up our own, cleaning out our own closets, cleaning up our own junk drawers, so that we don't do any extra harm, so that we don't add to the harm on the planet, so that we become genuinely able to benefit others. To be with yourself with all of the ways that you are. Be attentive to how the breath is moving in and out of your body. To what gets stirred up. It's like the shape themselves and the breath, the shapes themselves and the breath together do some kind of friction. They rub against each other. Maybe some churning going on, some stirring and releasing. So welcome whatever comes up. Let's inhale together. And exhale, sigh. Press your elbows down, tuck your chin into your throat, peel your way up towards sitting. When you come up to sit, you can bring your feet to the ground and let yourself fold forward. Drop your chin, widen your feet. Recognize that the more you drop your chin, or the more you widen your feet and drop your chin, maybe the more you'll feel your lower back, your neck, your shoulders. And then go ahead and sit up and come to lay on your belly. If you have a bolster or a blanket that you want to lay on top of, you can place the blanket or the bolster under, so the top end of it would be just under your your ribs or just at the top of your ribs, so that when you lie down, there's space for all of you. We'll start by coming up onto the elbows and bringing the left arm in the back, the right arm in the front, and walking your hands to opposite sides. And then let your head reach down. You can tuck your toes and roll your body forward a little bit so you get some, maybe a little extra leverage over top of your body, so you have more of a feeling of opening across your upper back. If you see me looking at my phone, I'm using it as a timepiece. Sometimes to go see In Search of Poetry. So you all are seasoned yin yogis. Sometimes the more you know about a subject or the more time you spend with a subject, you actually have more questions. When you're newer to something, you don't even know what to ask. So if you have questions as you move closer to the subject, please ask the question. But you all know that rather than trying to get everyone to look the same in a shape, the idea is to feel it where you're supposed to feel it. So the feeling is both tension and compression. There's a quality of stretch and a quality of squish. The stretch in this case is across the upper back of the body, and the squish is across the front. Maybe you amplify the benefit by directing your attention into the places where you feel the intensity. Going toward the discomfort rather than protecting yourself from it. Finding the ease of breath and a sense of curiosity. Opening yourself up to your own humanity. Let's inhale here and exhale, sigh. Lift your head, slide your hands back to their own respective side and kind of wiggle your shoulders, roll your wrists. It's so delightful to me to see your faces pop up on the screen in between sides. I just love seeing kitty cats and children and doggies. It's really so sweet. And of course, your own eyes, your own beautiful face. Go ahead, and when you're ready, change sides. Bring the right arm in the back and the left arm in the front. And walk your hands to opposite sides. If it's helpful, tuck your toes and steamroll your body forward. And then untuck your toes and relax your buttocks, and relax your thighs. There's a concept that I really appreciate called spiritual bypassing. I don't know, have you guys heard this term? Lift a foot or something to camera. You've heard of this foot? Okay, I see one foot waving. That's great. A couple of feet. The idea of spiritual bypassing is the concept that we can use our spiritual practice maybe as a protective barrier from actually feeling the reality of our lives. I think spiritual bypassing comes with some of the platitudes that might make the spiritual practice or even yoga seem really superficial. And they might stem from a good place, and there's probably even kernels of truth inside of them. But I know for many years, I misunderstood the spiritual path to be a path of spiritual bypassing, where I'll just pole vault over all of the difficulty, all of the pain. I'll insulate myself. I'll pretend or imagine or act like I have the realization of the ultimate truth, but all I was doing was distancing myself. And then thinking that I was spiritually advanced. And it seems to me that our job is more to use our spiritual practice to increase our ability to be with reality. And I love this possibility that you are strong enough to hold space for yourself to fall apart when you need to fall apart. Maybe that's what we're doing in these practices, increasing our capacity to hold ourselves while we let go. Let's inhale here and exhale, sigh. Lift your head and slide your hands back to their respective sides and jellyfish your shoulders if you like. Turn your head. And then pause and feel. Maybe rest your head on your forehead, rest your forehead on your hands. So there's maybe some intensity inside of the shape and then a sense of relief with the release. Maybe that's something to pay close attention to. That after the intensity, there is a sense of relief, a sense of release. Let's, if you're on a bolster or a blanket, you probably want to shimmy off of that. And then wiggle worm your whole body to the right of center on your mat. I'm not going to do it, but pretend I'm lying on my belly. So you'll stretch your left arm straight out to the side, lying down on your belly. When you look at your left arm, you could see that it is at 9 o'clock. Your hand might move back to 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. In time, you might bring it to like 10 o'clock, which is interesting. You can have your palm up or down. Go ahead and look over the right shoulder, press into your right hand and roll onto your left outer hip, your left outside of your body. The first choice would be simply to keep both thighs on the ground, bend both knees, stacking the right thigh on top of the left thigh. Or you could keep both legs long for a moment, bend the top leg. That's the right leg. Bring the right foot to the floor. It might be in front of the long leg, and it might be behind the long leg. And then go ahead and lift the right arm up and paint a big rainbow, more like a shooting star across the sky. Let your hand drift and disappear behind you. You can bend that elbow. Maybe your right elbow bends and your hand dangles down your back body. Or maybe your two hands lace. I want to read something from Mary Oliver. It's called In Blackwater Woods. Oh my goodness. She wrote, look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light. are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds. And every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this: the fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it. And when the time comes to let it go, to let go. Especially these days with everything, the pandemic, and so much loss of our freedom, or loss of a recognition of all we took for granted, for sure. Maybe I'll do another workshop on yoga for loss and letting go. I have a collection of poetry. It hasn't been updated recently, but it's a grief collection. I call it Yoga to Comfort After Loss. Maybe I'll work on adding the ones I found recently to that collection. I'll be happy to email it to anyone who wants. Just a couple of more breaths here. Let's inhale and exhale, sigh. Go ahead and lengthen both legs long. Release your hands if they're twined. Start to roll onto your belly. Get some weight onto the right arm. Slide the left arm in. Roll the shoulder. Roll your wrist. Turn your head. Pause. As you're ready, go ahead and wiggle yourself to the other side. Wiggle yourself to the left of center on your mat. And then lying on your belly, stretch your right arm out to the side. Your right arm might be at 3 o'clock. It might drift back to 4 or 5, or maybe it'll go to 2 o'clock. Look over your left shoulder, press into your left hand, and roll onto your side. You can bend both knees, keep both thighs stacked, or maybe you keep both legs long and bend just the top leg. That would be the left leg. Bring the left foot in front of or behind the long leg. And then lift your arm up and shift it around behind you. Your elbow might simply bend and your hand dangles down the back of your body, or your hands might lace. Your fingers touching in this particular shape has no extra juice. Be more guided by how you feel the stretch and the tug in the front of the arm. Notice the depth of your breath. Notice if there are places where the breath just doesn't have access, or it feels like the breath doesn't want to go. Be respectful. Don't bully your body. Maybe you coax your body. Maybe you listen and support your body. Not just your body, but also your spirit, also your heart. When we hear the word grief, often we immediately imagine the big losses, the loss through loss of life, the loss through death. And those are big. But loss is not saved for that. Loss is all the time. We lose everything. We lose it. The Yoga Sutras are quick to say we lose it because it changes or because we change. We lose it because of impermanence. And so grief is the natural human response to loss. And it's been suggested that new grief triggers old grief, and other people's grief triggers your grief. And maybe right now we're all given an opportunity to be with our grief. You have to let it move though. You can't let it get stuck. All the emotions are beneficial. They're all worthwhile. The problem is when they get stuck, when we deny them or conflate them. Let's inhale here and exhale, sigh. Release your hands if they're twined, lengthen your legs long, roll back onto your belly, get some weight onto the arm, slide the arm in, then the elbow, roll it around a little bit. And then make a pillow with your hands and rest and pause. As you're ready, come up onto hands and knees. We're stepping the right foot forward to practice dragon pose. If you have two blocks and you like blocks near the top of your mat to support your hands, you can do that. The right foot comes forward, the left knee comes further behind you. And you sink the top of the left thigh forward and down. Because I could show like this. You might like a blanket underneath your shin so your knee doesn't take any weight. You could have blocks on any height, really, whatever helps you feel the tugging or the opening in the top of the left thigh. Some people like both hands on the inside of the front foot. Some people on the outside. Notice if your shoulders are kind of hiking up. Notice if your jaw clenches. If you hold your breath unconsciously. So this idea of spiritual bypassing, there's a great book that's called Spiritual Bypassing. I can't think of the author's name right now. It's to avoid pain. It's to avoid discomfort. It's using spiritual truths, misusing them, misappropriating them, misunderstanding them probably. And so like the reality is everything. You can't even describe it. The reality of being human is exquisitely painful, excruciatingly beautiful. I love the idea that we don't need to sugarcoat it. I love the possibility of the straight dose. My meditation teacher uses that phrase, like, give me the straight dose. Don't sugarcoat it for me. This pose is the straight dose. This pose right now. I think we don't want the straight dose, or we don't want the real thing because we don't think we can handle it. And maybe a lot of people can't, but all the time you've invested on your yoga mat has been increasing your capacity. Coming out of the illusion. This is what waking up is. Inhale here. Exhale, sigh. Go ahead and draw your hips back. Your foot can go forward. You can roll the ankle and squeeze the toes. And then let's bring this right thigh over the left thigh and sit between your heels. Hinge forward. Use blocks or whatever's helpful for your arms, for your head. If you want to, you could instead lay on your back. If that feels like a kinder gesture for you or something that helps you get into it a little bit more, go ahead and do that. I think for a long time, the reality of impermanence I was taking comfort in the belief that since none of this was going to last, it wasn't really that valuable. It wasn't that important. Which again, I'm telling you, pole vaulting away from my personal experience, tolerating things I probably should never have tolerated. Um, and almost dismissing the reality, the pain or the difficulty. But I've come to see that actually the impermanence is what makes everything so incredibly precious, so incredibly valuable. The fleeting nature of every single moment is why it's valuable. And I think we're all learning that during this very special time of our lives, the preciousness of everything that could so easily be taken for granted. Feel what comes up inside of the shape. Remember, breath and shape come together and create some friction or some churning that may be revelatory for you. These two poses together, maybe, there's a possibility that issues around self-love or self-care, around empathy in general, around nurturing yourself could be arising. Most of us need to confront all of the ways we don't nurture ourselves. I hope that's not true for you. I'm pretty sure it's true for me. All of the harsh words you might have for your beautiful body, the unrealistic demands you place upon it, the battle you have with your emotions, deciding which ones are appropriate, which ones you won't allow, as if you have that choice. Inhale and exhale. Use your hands to help lift your torso up. Unwind your legs. You can windshield wiper your knees if that feels good. Or stretch them long and roll, whatever feels like a nice little relief. If you want to lift your heart or let your head drop back for some opening, do that. And then with all of the courage you can muster, come back onto hands and knees. And this time step the left foot forward. Get the top of the right thigh to release down. One of my favorite poems by Hafiz. It's called Deepening the Wonder. He wrote, "Death is a favor to us, but our scales have lost their balance. The impermanence of the body should give us great clarity, deepening the wonder in our senses and eyes of this mysterious existence we share and are surely just traveling through. If I were in the tavern tonight, Hafiz would call for drinks, and as the master poured, I would be reminded that all I know of life and myself is that we are just a mid-air flight of golden wine between his pitcher and his cup. If I were in the tavern tonight, I would buy freely for everyone in this world, because our marriage with the cruel beauty of time and space cannot endure very long. Death is a favor to us, but our minds have lost their balance. The miraculous existence and impermanence of form always makes the illumined ones laugh and sing. We are but a mid-air cup of golden wine. All I know of myself and life is that we are but a mid-air cup of golden wine." Relax your eyes. Imagine you could even relax behind your eyes. I know we look up and we say the sky, like the sky is up there. But the sky is all around us, that vast quality of spaciousness. Maybe you could imagine that vast spaciousness around the globes of your eyes, encasing your brain, some coolness, some radiance. See if you could sink a little bit more. Move toward the intensity and increase your capacity to hold the charge. We all remember Jack Nicholson's character, at least from the ads from A Few Good Men. testifying in a courtroom. You can't handle the truth. Inhale here. And exhale, sigh. Drift your hips back. You can slide your left foot forward and roll that ankle. Squeeze the toes. And then take the left leg and see if you can thread it on top of the right thigh. Like Gomukhasana, like cow face pose. And let yourself fold forward. Or lay on your back if that's a better way for you to target your outer hip. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna shows up as Arjuna's charioteer. So he's directing Arjuna's chariot, and Arjuna is about to go into battle. And he's battling his own cousins, his own family. This division in a kingdom after the king dies of who's going to lead, who's going to take over. Some people like to say it's an allegory for your own internal battle between the exalted traits and the whatever the opposite of exalted is, the our darkness, our negativity. Anyway, it's a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. And Krishna, in this case, Krishna is like the ultimate God, the ultimate who has come down and taken the form of this charioteer. And through this dialogue, Krishna's asking questions Arjuna's asking questions, and Krishna is giving spiritual discourse, spiritual lessons. And at one point, Arjuna says he wants to see Krishna in his full glory. And so he takes off his mask, and it's so bright and it's so light and it's so overwhelming. Arjuna can't handle it. It's like blinding. Maybe our ability to hold equally the excruciating pain, I like to call it exquisite pain and excruciating beauty. Considering the ways that you do take care of yourself. Maybe asking your body, asking your heart, asking your spirit or your soul if there are other actions you could take so that you feel nourished and cared for from the inside. Last couple of breaths here. See if there's a little more sinking, a little more opening, a little more allowing. Inhale here. And exhale, sigh. Use your hands to lift yourself up. Whew. Feel the rebound, the release, the relief that comes after the intensity. And go ahead and extend your legs and maybe windshield wiper your knees. Let's extend both legs long. And then you have the choice. You might sit up on the edge of a blanket or two blankets. We're folding forward over the legs, but just be really attentive to your hips. So when you fold, let your hips come with you. Your low back comes with you. If that doesn't happen, if you roll back and start to fold forward, I say bend your knees so that you can pivot your hips a little bit so that you fold over. And then in time, maybe you start to lengthen your legs a little further away from you. Yeah, and don't engage. You can have your legs long. If you have your legs long, that would make it more hamstrings. If you keep your knees bent, that makes it a little bit more, low back. Let your head be heavy. The shapes themselves and breath and awareness all mixed together, creating like a friction that might stir the pot, that might release or reveal. It's really an unreasonable task, this being human, facing the reality that we will lose everything we love, and yet if we don't love, our lives have no meaning. I love to take pictures of poems or signs or stickers on street signs. I genuinely am starting to believe there's a whole underground system of communication that is like happening through stickers on street signs. But I loved this little poem. I have to check out if there's like a hashtag. I think it says Street Poetry Society, Street Poet Society. And it's like typed message and then cut out and put on a sticker. And this one says, "The world gets hard to live in with an open spirit, but risk is the spice of life. Be legendary. I think this idea of daring to love, what a risk it is. To love with your hands not clenched. Just a couple of more breaths here. Inhale and exhale. Use your hands to lift up and just pause. Feel your hands can come behind you if you like. Arc up your chest. If it feels nice to bend your knees and windshield wiper your legs, you can do that. If it feels good to kind of lift your hips and wiggle around a little, do that. Go ahead and come to lie on your back. Draw your knees into your belly for a moment. Give them a good squeeze. Rock a little bit from side to side. For a few breaths, find a happy baby pose. So your elbows are on the insides of your knees and your hands reach. You can choose the inside or the outside edges of your feet. Use your hands a little bit like stirrups, maybe stirrups in a saddle, and kind of draw your knees down a little bit or draw your legs a little wider. If you would be inclined to widen your legs like a straddle in this shape, you could release the feet and hold on wherever you do. For a few breaths here to feel the inner thighs. If you were practicing heart bench with the soles of your feet touching, you did get a little juice on the inner thighs already. And see if you could bring the soles of your feet to touch. And then imagine that you could bring your feet touching, like you could bring your feet into prayer at your heart. I don't think that's going to happen for most people in this shape. So go in that direction and then hug your knees back in, curl in a little ball, draw your forehead toward your knees. And go ahead and start to slide toward Shavasana. At the end of this particular class every week, I'm reminded of the last line in a poem by Mary Oliver. I think it's the Summer Day poem. And she says, "And doesn't everything end at last and always too soon?" What is it? Tell me, what is it you want to do with your one wild, precious life? So the reality of impermanence embedded in a single yoga class. What so many things to love about yoga. Among them is that every time you practice Shavasana, which literally is corpse pose. It means corpse pose. It's sliding into the ending, or maybe the gap or the space. We have the beginnings and middles and ends colliding in this moment we call now. And all of it is supported by the silence. And so Shavasana is a letting go. letting go of everything that has been. So fascinating that instead of thinking or regarding yourself as a thing, a specific being, a specific way, you could regard yourself as a process, maybe a bunch of processes, but that there's the possibility of recreation, of reinvention, of discovery. So we let go of everything that has been. Notice if you're just hovering. Is there a little more sinking you could do? Begin breathing more consciously, more deeply. Enjoying the movement of breath and the energy that the breath propels. Perhaps feeling that energy moving in deep rivers through the body, a flow, a smooth, even current. Wake yourself up however you enjoy. Bending your knees and rolling into a little ball on your right side. Pause there. Squeeze in. Be really grateful to yourself for carving out this time for yourself. And go ahead and build your way back up to sitting, coming to a comfortable seat. Coming back to your throne, climbing into an embodied sense, a visceral sense of your own dignity, your own grace. Embedded in your humanity, nothing you have to earn, nothing you even have to prove, waiting for you to experience and express. Your dignity, your grace is waiting, the world is waiting for you to express it. To move with that quality of elegance, patience, kindness. Go ahead and bring your hands into prayer, lift your heart, bow your head. Moving forward into your day with kindness, attentiveness to your thoughts, your words, and your actions. A recognition of how they will ripple outward and how they may influence the world. We are so powerful. Let's conclude with the sound of a single Om. Inhale. Slip your arms behind you. Your right hand holds your left wrist. Your left thumb and forefinger touch. Shine your heart to the sky. Lead with your heart. Fold forward. Exhaling to seal in your practice.